What's up, everybody? Esoteric Man here. In this episode of Esoteric Man, we're going to discuss another mystery from one of the great lights in Masonry, known to the common folk as the Bible. First and foremost, I hope everybody is having a blessed day or evening. And considering the crazy times we're living in, I hope that everybody is able to stay focused and to keep moving forward towards their goals and their ambitions, to keep striving to be better today than they were yesterday, to keep seeking the light and trying to spread it and make the world a better place. So I just want to drop a gem on everybody. If you're an esoteric or an occult student and you study and you know who you are, you know where the true Christ dwells, that ye are the temple of God. You are where God resides, and that he who is in you is greater than Christ. Christ said it himself. But if you understand this language, then this will be a blessing to you. It's in Galatians chapter 5. It says, "Stand fast therefore in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." So, where is the Christ? The Christ is within. What is the yoke and the bondage? That is duality. That is seeing the world through the lens of duality. And anybody who has studied the floor of the Masonic Lodge understands the black and white checker floor is duality. The black and white, the polarities, right? Goes on to say, "Behold, I, Paul, say unto you, that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing." Okay? What he's talking about is the law of circumcision. All right? So, we're getting into the law. Now, I'm going to try to tie this in here eventually. But the law, you have to understand, is cause and effect. And it's being given to these people in a physical, literal form. Okay? So, people are literally being circumcised as obedience to the law. Now, these laws are being expressed symbolically through physical symbolism, such as circumcision, for example. So hopefully you can see what I'm getting at here already, is that there is a literal and a figurative message being given here. The physical ritual, the physical symbolic ritual that is given in the Bible is symbolic of childish understanding, okay? Because you're being given these literal, physical, symbolic, ritualistic symbols that are for the esoteric and occult ignorant. They aren't able to grasp the deeper spiritual understandings. So it goes on to say in verse 3 of chapter 5 of Galatians, "For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law." Okay? So, right there, Paul is saying that every man that is circumcised is under the law of circumcision. You see, people who abide by the given and prescribed laws, they are in bondage to those laws. Those are their masters, okay? They are in debt, okay? They are held captive by those laws that they have to live by. And the reason that they live by those laws is because they are spiritually ignorant. They aren't capable of understanding the true nature of God, the true nature of cause and effect. So that's why they've been given these laws to abide by. And it's these laws that place them in debt. So verse 4 says, "Christ is become of no effect unto you. Whosoever of you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace." So, Basically, what it's saying is that if you need to be told what to do, if you need to have orders given to you, spiritual orders, that you don't get it. You're not connected to the true Christ. It says in verse 4, it says that you are fallen from grace. Grace is the true understanding, the connection with God, the God that is in you. The true connection has been severed. You are separate because you have to be led and strung along by ministers, preachers, priests, all these different religions. You have to be somebody who is fed dogma. That is what gives you direction. You can't function without that. You need that in your life because without it, you're lost. Some people think that without believing in a religion or a dogmatic God, that all morality is lost. And that's not true. That is not true. Within every human being, there lies an inherent good conscience. Most people don't listen to it. Most people do what they want to do. But that is not true. That is not true. Okay, so let's skip to verse 6. It says, "For in Jesus Christ neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision availeth anything, but faith which worketh by love." Okay? So true faith works by love. Now, basically it's saying here, as you heard, that neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, okay? So you're kind of like, well, what the heck does that mean? Well, what it's saying is that you have to understand the middle path. You have to understand that it's not about this way or that way. It's talking about the people who are in God's grace, not the people who have to be led one way or the other, and not the people who are easily deceived by one side or the other, but it's talking about the middle path. And it goes on to say that it works by love. It says, "But by faith which worketh by love." Now, a lot of people don't understand what love really is. You hear it all the time. I love my watch. I love my car. I love my new clothes. I love my girlfriend. I love my kids. And those are all fun. And a lot of them are more significant than others. But the true definition of love is that essence, that divine spark that propels life forward. It's something that you can't really idolize, but it's something that you can embody. It's something that you can duplicate in your life. It's by helping others that we duplicate this love. We help others move forward. Just like the sun, as it shines down on plants, right? That's love, because it's that unseen force that keeps life moving forward, right? That's what love is, and it does not ask for anything in return, okay? It's the unseen force that causes the flowers to grow, that causes food to be available for the rabbits and the deer, and it's even that propelling force that moves the planets in orbit and keeps the sun in its orbit and just keeps order, right? Perfect order so that life can exist. That is true love, without demanding or requesting anything in return. True love. So verse 7 and 8 is a little bit more revealing. It says, "Ye did run well. Who did hinder you that ye should not obey truth? This persuasion cometh not of him that calleth you." So it's saying here, like who's hindering you that you should not obey truth? Like, where is this coming from? Where is this influence coming from that's causing you to stray from the middle path, from the truth, from true understanding? And in verse 8 it says, "This persuasion cometh not of he that calleth you." The true Christ within, that light within, it's not that light that you're following. You're not listening to the beckoning of that light. You're being led astray by outside influences. You're listening to what Preacher Bob is saying and telling you, his interpretation of the Scriptures. You're listening to the Methodist interpretation of the Scriptures. You're listening to, all these other, the Methodists and the Baptists and any other denomination, the Catholics. You're listening to them. You are not following what is within. So due to time, let's go ahead and skip down to verse 13, where it says, "For, brethren, ye have been called unto liberty." It's talking about us. We have been called to liberty, not bondage, from any side, from anybody, from any outside external influence. We have been called to liberty. "Only use not liberty for an occasion of the flesh, but by love serve one another." Okay, so we're getting back to the unseen essence that propels all life forward, that love. It says, do not use liberty for an occasion to the flesh, which means the material things, right? The material concerns, the gain. That's really what it's about. It's about, obviously we have materialistic needs to survive, but what it's talking about here is trying to get over on people, trying to control people. We all know, if you study the occult, you understand that there is a light occult and there's a dark occult. There's dark workers and light workers, and the dark workers are the ones that use this knowledge, the knowledge of the mind, and they try to use it to manipulate people. They try to control people and use them to their advantage. And that's the difference between the light and the dark occultism. But as we were talking about, it says don't use it. Don't use it for the occasion of the flesh, but by love to serve one another. Because that's where the true treasure is found, is in service, right? Or whatever, by whatever means that may be. It's the simple things, If say your wife or your child or your sister, they're studying for a test and they have a lot of responsibility. They have things they have to do. Say, for example, you clean the house. You do the laundry, you do the dishes, so that they can have time to study, right? You're helping a goal, a positive goal, progress and move forward. Say you want to go out and feed somebody. You want to take some sandwiches to some homeless people so that life can continue to move forward, so that they can continue to experience this life. They can continue to experience the five senses, the only things that we have to embrace this wonderful existence here that we've been blessed with. If you can feed somebody for a day, you help that unseen force move forward in the universe. You help God to experience himself through another vessel for another day, and to be able to smell and taste and touch and see and hear and all those wonderful things that God loves to do. Now, just sort of what I just touched on, as we read the next verse, it says in verse 14, "For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself," right? So if you love your neighbor as yourself, you become one, right? I like the saying of Buddha when he said, it's impossible to love your enemies, because once you love your enemies, they're no longer your enemies, right? So the idea is to become one, right? To be one. To love your neighbor as yourself is to be one, and to not look at them as somebody who is a threat or somebody who is outside of yourself, but that you're able to grasp the true concept, the true perspective and understanding of existence, is that there is no separation. And you know, unfortunately, there is a veil. There is a unseen veil that just, it has to do with the physical and the spiritual realms, and there is some sort of a disconnect sometimes with some people. It's stronger than others, and we see everything as separate. And when somebody dies, for example, that is close to us and that we love, we see them as gone. We see them as such a sad, a horrible, terrible experience of being gone, to never ever see or touch again. But in reality, you know, if we were able to get past that veil, we would truly understand that there is no separation, and that they were never separate to begin with. But we would have had true understanding the whole time, and we would know that when they die, well, you know, what's different other than the physical being gone? I mean, it's understandable to miss that, and it's hard in any case, no matter how enlightened you are. You know, you're always going to want that physical being to embrace and to see and smell and touch again. But at least if you have a true understanding of reality, at least you have that as an anchor to always come back to and say, you know what? That person that I loved so much is still here with me. That person is me. That person is myself. That person is everybody else. There is only one, right? I suppose if I don't get any further than this, this is the one thing that I would want you to take away from this. In verse 16 it says, "This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh." So it's talking about the difference there. It's saying that if you walk in the Spirit, then you understand the difference between the Spirit and the material plane. So you also have to understand that the flesh is symbolic of ego, because ego is something that is manufactured by the mind, and thoughts are matter. So you know, the more dense that shows you just how powerful the unseen is, because you can't see thought anywhere except for inside of your mind, but yet it is so powerful. And it's not dense at all. I mean, you can't touch it, you know, you can't grasp it or catch it. It's just, it's an invisible form inside of your mind that is, it's a form. But ego is composed of these thoughts. Ego is composed of form. So be not in bondage of the flesh, which is ego, right? Or the false belief that the flesh is who you are, or that the ego is who you are. Any type of form, the further away from form you can get, the more spiritual you will become. Now, that does not mean that the ego is not useful. The ego can be used in many productive ways. The ego is where we develop our goals. So the responsibility is definitely there. It is a heavy responsibility on each of us to make sure that the ego is controlled, and that it is developed in a positive way, in a controlled way, and because it can be a very negative influence. It can be a very destructive influence, and it can keep growing, and it can attach on to many things, and it can grow from within to without and manifest itself in a physical act to where you are harming people, you are harming yourself. So the The ego is an extremely dangerous thing. At the same time, it can be a very positive thing that can, if utilized correctly, and if the being that possesses this ego is in tune with God and nature and understands the, for example, the 7 Hermetic principles, if they understand that, they can utilize it to develop their ego in a more productive way, because the 7 Hermetic principles will teach you all of the laws that you need to know of cause and effect to be able to utilize your ego, whether for good or for bad. That is up to you. So now we were talking about duality. Those who understand the white and black checker floor of the Masonic Lodge, they understand that this means opposition, it means duality, it means light and dark. Verse 17 says, "For the flesh lusteth against the spirit." Okay, remember we were talking about the two. We have the matter and the invisible spirit. It says for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. These are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. So basically what it's saying there is that you have these two forces of existence. You have the unseen and you have the seen. And they sort of interact with each other back and forth, right? And sometimes it's a pretty bad struggle depending on what plane it's on, because it's not just the, we can get really deep on this. I don't have time in this video, but I mean, for every plane of existence, all of your senses, there is a spiritual and a matter, spiritual and a physical flesh principle that applies to each sense. Okay, each sense, and on, say, the plane of sight. Okay, obviously there is a spiritual and there's a physical sense just to the eyes, and also to the hearing. Like, you can be deceived by what you see in the physical with your eyes, but the spiritual is communicating something totally different. Okay, so you have to understand that on every plane of existence, through all of your senses, there is a law of its own to be recognized. Okay, but what we're saying was that the flesh and the spirit, they struggle against each other, and they only struggle against each other when the person does not understand them, when the person is not able to see that they are both there to serve them. Because what happens is people get lost in their ego, and then they tilt more towards the flesh. Okay, and so, which sort of really makes the playing field a little unfair, because you're not that in tune with your spiritual side, so you're being led around by your ego, which is the more physical realm. So it's keeping you, as it says in verse 17, from the things that you would do. And what it means by the things that you would do is live a peaceful, harmonious, productive life that is in tune with nature, that is in tune with your true godly self, right? And if we look around the world, we can see that there's nothing but chaos and, just all kinds of nonsense going on in the world right now. And it's up to us as godly beings who understand who we are. We know who we are. It's up to us to separate ourselves from the manipulation and the deception. So verse 18 is kind of going to steer us back to where we started. If ye be led by the Spirit, ye are not under the law. Now, the law is, as we stated, it is a given thing from another human being. It is given by authority, right? It's given by priests and ministers and all this other BS. It's given by law enforcement. It's given by governments, man governments. It's a manufactured law. Okay, now if you are led by the Spirit, you do not need those because you are in tune with God, your true self. You are in tune with Christ, your higher self. You do not need to be told what to do. You don't have to be given these fictional, created up laws to tell you how cause and effect works, because you know how cause and effect works, because cause and effect is its own teacher. It comes from within. And it's hard to believe that some people are that far out of tune with themselves that they have to be told not to kill somebody, not to steal. You know, I mean, why does a minister have to tell somebody not to steal and not to kill? It's unbelievable. People who are not led by the Spirit live in a plane of existence where they have to be told that if you kill somebody, you know, there's going to be this eternal punishment given to you after you die. That fear has to be instilled in them. It has to be, they have to be raised up in this belief that when they die, they are going to go and literally, physically get burned for eternity because they hurt somebody, or they stole something, or they lied. These people are not led by the Spirit. They have no understanding. They are unconnected. They do not understand. Naturally, it's not good to steal. It's not good to kill. Right? Because they don't understand how the universe works. They don't understand how the laws and the Hermetic principles, they don't understand the law of correspondence. They don't get it. They've never done any homework, any research into themselves. They don't understand their own spirit. These people are oblivious. They have to be told what's going to happen to them after they die. They have to have these dogmatic belief systems instilled in them, and they're not able to see through them. They are not able to see through them. They don't realize that this stuff is just fictional, and it's dogmatic, and it's made up to keep them in line, because they aren't capable of keeping themselves in line. They have to have the law. They have to have the law of circumcision. They have to have all these different laws from external sources, man-made sources, in order to be able to be a decent human being. And in order for that human being to be a good person, they have to be threatened with hellfire. You know, so it's not a good thing. It's not a good exhibition of character. Now, verse 19, it goes on to say, "Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lavishness." So it's going on to just basically say that, you know, the lower self, as it says, the works of the flesh is symbolic of the lower self. So it's going to produce, if you follow the works of the flesh, it's going to produce those things. Like, you're going to be obsessed with the sensations of the flesh. That's why it's important to bridle your passions and to subdue your passions and to keep things under control. Not everybody is capable of doing that on their own because they're weak. And, you know, some of the brethren, they worry that, once they take their oath, really good men, they don't want to be untrue to their oath. And, they want to be upright Masons, and they don't want to fall subject to, vice and addiction. And so, it really bothers a lot of them, and it really gets into their conscience. And they worry that they might not be bridling their passions and that they might not be subduing their passions. I know some of them worry that, if they take it, if they drink, if they smoke or do other things recreationally, that they are failures and that they have been untrue to their covenant. But that's not the case. That is not exactly how it works. The goal is to subdue your passions, and that does not mean to not partake of worldly pleasures, but what it means is to be able to control them, to subdue them, to be able to put the reins on them and control them for your benefit and to steer them where you want. Like the Bible says, it says to try the spirits, and it says that the spirits are to be subject to the prophets, not the prophets to these spirits. So those things which you enjoy in this life, if you can control them and they serve you, that's a whole lot different than you not being able to control them and them controlling you, and you not being able to function from day to day because you are addicted to a substance and you cannot keep a job and you can't keep a relationship. So it's all about the higher and the lower self, right? So we need to be on top of that, and those are things that we need to be thinking about. What can we do better, right? So as the last verse says, verse 26, let us not be desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another. So listen, if you really are truly about being God and being godly and pursuing godly attributes, if that's truly your sincere desire, then you will understand the significance of not envying your brother and not provoking your brother. Because if you envy your brother, you see yourself as separate. You see your brother as better than you, instead of loving your brother as yourself for all of his success and his happiness. You have separated yourself because you don't have something that he has. So that's about the envy. The provoking. If you are provoking people, you are stimulating division. That's what you're doing. You're not ready. If you're causing division, and you know what? I don't care what Bob over here does. If he's being a divisive person and he's causing problems and stirring up all kinds of bad emotions, I don't care about Bob. Okay? I pay no attention to Bob, because he is causing division that is ungodly. Do I want to be godly or do I want to be ungodly? I do apologize. Sometimes I get off on rants. But anyways, if you truly want to be godly and you're really serious about it, then you'll embrace everybody. You will embrace everybody and you will be like God. God is, non-judgmental. The only way that God is judgmental is through laws of cause and effect. If you drop a rock on your toes, the laws of cause and effect will reveal your judgment. Extreme pain will be your judgment, and that's the way it works. So, anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful, blessed evening, and thank you so much for listening to my babbling, and feel free to check me out on Instagram as Mr. Gary Palmer. You will find my brand there, American Religion, which basically encompasses all of the cool stuff about America. Basically the Renaissance movement and the Second Amendment and the esoteric and occult nature of the United States of America that the Founding Fathers started. And if you don't like the Founding Fathers, then I get it. But they started something great. And the way that they designed the Constitution was that it could be changed and improved. But, you know, any kind of improvement, any kind of a change in this country, it's not going to be made through violence. It's not going to be made through rioting and looting because of the system that we have set up. Yeah, I mean, this country might have started out with violence and, you know, taking over land and all that stuff that everybody likes to complain about. But it's not like that anymore. There's a system that we have to abide by. The foothold is too great. You can't just up and do your own thing now. You have to appreciate the system that's in place because it is a system that is able to change. And the thing is that if you really care about something enough, you start a movement, a legal movement. Now, you have to do it through the process, the legal process, to make things change. And you have to elect people to get people in office that uphold your same values and principles. That's how things will improve for you. If you're not involved in it in that way, in a positive, constructive way, it's not going to happen for you. It's that's just the way it is. So all of the looting and the rioting and the murders and the hatred, you know, it's not going to change anything. It's making things worse, and it's just tightening government up. That's all that's doing. So, if anybody would like me to give an analysis on my opinion on political things, I would be more than willing to do that. But I don't want to do it unless it's something that's wanted, because there's a lot of incorrect understanding about how the system works. Anyways, peace and blessings to everybody, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful, successful life.